Have you ever touched her skin and felt like you were trespassing into something ancient? Not lust, not love, but a silence so heavy it drowned your instincts. It wasn't passion, it was precision. It was the quiet architecture of a force that doesn't chase, but draws in. There are truths men no longer speak aloud, not because they are lies, but because they demand too much to carry. Nietzsche did not turn away from these truths. He walked straight into them. And what he saw wasn't cruelty in women, but depth. A depth that confuses the shallow man and terrifies the unprepared. He wrote not with bitterness, but with the clarity of someone who had shed every illusion. He said, "Woman is not the question. She is the answer to riddles you didn't know you were living. She is form without map, softness with sharp edges, a labyrinth dressed in warmth." This wasn't a warning. It was a wake-up call. Because when you worship what you do not understand, you are no longer in love. You are in surrender. The crowd dismissed him, called him mad. But Nietzsche knew madness is often the price of seeing what others refuse to see. He spoke of mass, of instincts disguised as logic, and of the man who mistakes being needed for being loved. So ask yourself, why does her smile disarm you faster than any threat? Why does your strength melt in the presence of something so tender, yet unreadable? Why do you doubt yourself when her silence grows? If you refuse these questions, you'll keep confusing connection with captivity. You'll kneel, not for love, but for the echo of your own longing. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche warned us, "He who cannot command himself must obey someone else." So what of the man who hands over his will to a woman whose essence he's never dared to study? That man is not free, he's bewitched. And when the spell fades, so will everything he built under its influence. Nietzsche never hated the feminine. He revered it because he knew what is truly powerful does not need to shout. And what truly rules you often does so from behind your most beautiful dreams. Understand something. Nietzsche wasn't warning you about her. He was warning you about the part of you that refuses to see her clearly. Because she is not your downfall, nor is she your salvation. She is the mirror, and every man must look into it without flinching, or he will drown in the reflection of his own fantasies. You were conditioned to chase affection, but Nietzsche knew affection is often just a mask. What matters is the will behind it, the why, not the what, and that's where men vanish, in pursuit of the illusion, forgetting the structure beneath it. They touch the flame, but never study the fire. They seek warmth, but ignore the burn pattern. And so they fall. And when they fall, she doesn't reach out, not out of cruelty, but because rescue was never part of her design. She doesn't rescue. She selects. She adapts. She mirrors. But she does not build from scratch. That burden, that beauty, that curse belongs to the man. A man, Nietzsche said, must wrestle with himself, especially when standing before the thing he desires most, his vision of her, his craving for her, his hidden weaknesses masked as longing. Because if he doesn't confront those things, she will. Not through malice, but through nature. Just as the sea doesn't hate the shore, it simply reshapes it. So too a woman doesn't break the unprepared man. She reveals where he was already cracked. A woman doesn't envy the man who surpasses her. She responds to him. You follow your nature, and she follows hers. Nietzsche walked among men who mistook applause for truth, who mistook being admired for being awake. But he knew real strength belongs to the one who cannot be deceived, especially by that which he loves. That's the beginning of wisdom. You were not born to orbit her. You were born to govern yourself. Nietzsche wrote that a life without struggle is not a life truly lived, but worse still, is a desire never examined. Because when you refuse to understand it, desire transforms. It becomes a mask. And no disguise is more dangerous than the one desire wears when it walks into the soul of a man wrapped in the body of a woman. She will sound like devotion, move like purpose, speak in the language of fate, but beneath it all, there is instinct, not cruelty, not deception, but selection, survival. You call it forever. She calls it now. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche warned us, when love is not ruled by clarity, it becomes divine madness. Yes, divine, but still madness. A madness that makes the soul, once full of wings, crawl like a creature obsessed, orbiting hunger, mistaking it for home. How many men today are shadows of who they could have been? How many abandoned their calling, betrayed their principles, and sold their sovereignty for a fleeting touch and the illusion of being chosen? You weren't born to be consumed by the feminine. You were born to comprehend it, and through that comprehension, rise above it. Jung observed, while man longs for meaning, woman is often attuned to safety. This isn't criticism, it's biology. It's the wisdom of survival, not betrayal. She doesn't seek the brightest light. She seeks what endures, what shelters, what stands when storms come. Your intelligence may impress a room, but it is your ambition, your stillness under pressure, your command over chaos, that moves her deeper than words ever could. But if you hand her your crown before you've earned it, don't expect her to honor it. Place her above your path, and watch how life itself begins to test you through her. She isn't cruel. She's responsive. She mirrors what you are. If your soul has a price, she will name it, without even knowing she's doing it. Jung believed the psyche is layered, the conscious, the shadow, the self. The man who lets the shadow lead, whether lust, insecurity, or the hunger for approval, becomes possessed. He no longer loves her, he clings to her. You've seen these men, men who forget who they were the moment she smiles, men whose fire only burns when someone else is watching. They kneel, not to devotion, but to desperation. Men who trade their values for a moment of validation, and the world applauds them for being open. But Socrates would have called them unguarded. He was surrounded by those who mistook volume for virtue, prettiness for depth, and charm for truth. But he saw through the veil, and when he refused to kneel to illusion, they silenced him. But his wisdom was never meant for the crowd. It was meant for the one man who dares to see past the veil. Socrates, like Jung, knew the feminine is tied to presence, to emotion, to immediacy, to the now. While man, he is cursed and blessed to carry the weight of what's coming. His eyes are always forward. His bones carry a future no one else can see. And that vision, it comes at a price. The feminine offers escape. Trade your clarity for comfort, your edge for ease, your mission for a soft place to fall. But that comfort is not peace, it's sedation. True peace? It isn't found in her eyes, it's found in the mirror. When your purpose is intact, your mind is clear, and your soul is your own. She will test you, not because she is testing you, but because she is testing what you stand on. And if you stand on sand, she will show you, with perfect precision, how easily the tide takes it all away. If you do not rule your inner world, it will rule you, not with cruelty, but with quiet, precise instinct. Socrates didn't teach us to reject life. He taught us to interrogate it, not to fear confusion, but to bring it into the light, not through paranoia, but through perception. She is not your anchor. She is the tide. And tides do not wait for you to find your footing. You must become a philosopher of your own nature. Dissect your instincts. Observe your triggers. Study your cravings. Socrates warned, the true downfall of man doesn't come from the sword or the state. It comes from the impulses he refuses to confront. And there is no impulse more profound, more treacherous than the yearning for feminine mystery. Men don't fall because they love her. They fall because they don't know why they love her. And in that blindness, they carve statues from flesh, worship illusions, and curse her when she fails to become divine. But the truth is this: she was never sent to complete you. She was sent to reveal you. In Gorgias, Socrates dismantles the idea that pleasure is goodness, that feeling good equals being good. He dismantles the lie that being desired is the same as being virtuous. And this terrifies modern man, because his pursuit of feminine approval is no longer about love. It's a symptom, a sign he's wandered far from his own essence. You don't need her gaze. You need your soul, steady in the dark, untouched by shifting winds. Men today aren't dying from lack of potential. They are rotting from within. They've abandoned their compass. They know her emotions better than they know their own convictions. They perform, they mold, they say what pleases, but forget the promises they once made to themselves when no one was watching. You call it romance, but she sees submission. And she's right. A woman cannot love what she does not admire, and she cannot admire what she can easily direct. She senses it. She may not speak it, but she feels it. And when she does, she stops choosing you. Socrates never spoke in our language, but his wisdom speaks to something eternal. He understood harmony, not as sameness, but as rightful order. Each soul in its proper place. A woman does not want to lead you. She wants to feel safe in your lead. But when you abdicate that role, when you make her feelings your compass, her praise your mirror, her affection your oxygen, you lose your axis. You cease being the sun. You become a satellite. And yes, she may keep you, but not out of longing, out of convenience. And one day that convenience expires. The world is littered with men who believe they could earn her love by surrendering their spine. But love is not won through worship. It is honored through self-mastery. In Meno, Socrates asks if virtue can be taught. But the greater question is this: do men today even recognize what virtue looks like in a man? Do you? Do you know how it feels to stand in it before offering it away? Or did you confuse craving with commitment, attachment with integrity, need with love? She doesn't want your collapse. She doesn't want your dependence. She doesn't even want your goodness, if it comes at the price of your truth. She wants what is real. And a real man doesn't revolve around her. He orbits the eternal, the good, the just, the true. And only if she can walk beside him without slowing him down does he reach for her hand. When she sees that your life bends not to her moods, but to your principles, when she hears your voice grounded in wisdom, tempered by clarity, softened by strength, then she follows. Not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. That was Socrates' great secret. True power is not seized, it emerges, when a man no longer chases it. The moment you stop pursuing her validation and begin refining your essence, not your image, but your inner form, you become untouchable. Not because you are cold, but because you are whole. And wholeness, that is the forgotten inheritance of men. The temples of ancient Athens were not built to house comfort. They were forged in reverence for virtue, carved into columns, whispered through marble, echoed in the minds of those who dared to live examined lives. Socrates said it: know thyself, not to win her, not to serve her, not to mirror her fantasies, but because in knowing there is power, and in power there is peace. But most men today are not at peace. They are at war, not with her, but with the illusion they cling to. The illusion that her embrace will fill their emptiness, that her affection will repair their broken purpose, that her beauty will make them whole. But that is not love. That is intoxication. And every philosopher knows, a drunk man cannot perceive the truth. Socrates taught us, beyond every shadow there is a form. Just as there is a true form of the masculine, there is one of the feminine. But you must learn to see it, not through your hunger, but through your understanding. But modern man does not seek the form. He chases the shadow. He chases the scent, the smile, the soft shape, and forgets to ask, what does that form guard? What does it consume? She is not cruel. She is calibrated. She is not malicious. She is adaptive. She is not broken. She is designed to endure, not for you, for herself. Her instincts are older than your fantasies, her vision clearer than your confusion. And when your eyes are blurred by longing, she sees what you conceal, your fracture, your frailty, your forgotten compass. Socrates never wrote it so plainly, but he wove it into every dialogue. You are ruled by one of two masters, reason or desire. There is no third, and the man who dives headfirst into desire without a guide does not awaken. He drowns. Yes, he may smile, but it's the smile of a man going under. And when the breath leaves his body, he curses her, blames the current for the depths he never learned to swim. But only the man who trains his reason can interrogate his longing. Not flee from it, not repress it, but face it, study it, and see where it lies. That man doesn't sink, he sails. And she watches him not with resentment, but with respect. Not because he is cold, but because he is clear. At the banquet, Socrates speaks of Diotima, a woman who taught him that love is not a pleasure, it is a ladder. From the love of one face, to the love of all beauty, to the love of wisdom, and at last, to the love of the divine. But most men never climb. They settle on the first rung, where flesh is sweet, but souls are forgotten. They rot there, smiling in decay, never once asking where that heat was meant to carry them. You who are listening, don't rot. Ascend. She is not the destination. She is the question. She is not the crown. She is the gate. She is not the flame. She is the wind. But you must be the candle. Your strength is not in extinguishing her, nor in worshiping her. It lies in no longer needing her to name you. Let her remain mysterious. Let her remain wild. Let her be a paradox, a woman. But you be a man. In the Socratic sense, measured, tested, examined, unshaken by affection, unmoved by absence. Do not chase the glitter of what is fading. That is not your path. That is not your calling. And above all, that is not your dignity. Because dignity is not gifted. It is earned. Forged in the quiet heat of nights where no hand reaches for yours, where no applause fills the silence. It is born in rejection, in stillness, in the sober light of solitude. That is where Socrates would meet you. Not in your victories, but in your vigil. Not as a savior to lift you, but as a shadow reminding you to build from within. Because the man who needs her warmth to feel whole has no fire of his own. And the man who molds himself just to keep her near will crack. And when he does, she will not gather the pieces. Not because she is cruel, but because she is honest. She too is looking for a man who chooses, not clings, who sees, not fantasizes, who recognizes what she is and what she is not. She is not your therapist. She is not your sanctuary. She is not the mirror where your worth is reflected. If you must look at her to see who you are, then you never knew yourself to begin with. Remain where few dare to linger, in silence, in structure, in command of self. Not to be admired, but to be authentic. Socrates once said, "The shortest and surest way to live with honor is to be what we appear to be." Everyone wants to appear strong, wise, desired, respected. But how many are willing to endure the fire that actually creates that? Don't chase her attention. Build your presence. Don't chase her body. Tame your appetite. Don't chase her love. Offer your truth and let her respond as she will. That is what Socrates meant by the examined life. Not just thoughts, but instincts, reflexes, needs. Because the soul is not revealed in comfort. It is revealed when it stands before beauty, before silence, before rejection. That moment, when she steps back, goes quiet, or walks away, that is the sacred trial. That is the moment where most men fall, not by her hand, but by their own betrayal of self. But not you. You remain grounded. You do not react. You reflect. You understand. She is not your adversary. She is the signal. If her affection can destroy your discipline, the weakness was always there. If her silence can unravel you, that void was not hers. It was yours. Do not blame her for being what the world shaped her to be. Study her, revere her, but never kneel. She is not your purpose. She is not your guide. She is the wind. But you must be the mountain. Remember this. She is unreachable, changeable, wild. But you are the mast. Don't curse the wind for shifting. Adjust your sail. That is masculinity, not domination, not conquest, but unwavering direction. This is the truth no one hands you. The secret hidden beneath slogans, beneath soft lies carved into classrooms. But Socrates never lied. He whispered it in contradictions, taught it through irony, revealed it in the way he drank the poison, without trembling. And you must not tremble either, Because when you are still, when you are unmoved, she will feel it. Not with fear, but with reverence. She will know. You cannot be swayed. You are not lit by her fire. You carry your own flame. And in that moment, when she sees you do not need her light to shine, something ancient awakens. She aligns. Not because you asked, not because you begged, but because your power made space for her nature to rest. You see, women do not fall in love. They recognize strength and they align with it. They do not follow pleading hands. They follow steady direction. They don't want to be worshipped. They want to feel safe in the orbit of a man who stands firm when the earth shakes. Yes, she seeks warmth, but not the erratic fire that flares and dies. She seeks the ember that endures, that lingers. Socrates would never have pleaded for her devotion. He simply was the man to whom devotion arrives on its own, because he knew the sacred hierarchy of energies. What is rooted governs what is fluid. And you were never made to chase the river with open hands. You were made to build the channel, to direct it, to hold it. But the world tells you otherwise. Submit, they say. Be soft. Be yielding. Be agreeable. And yet in obeying that script, you betray the law etched into your marrow. Do not bend unless your soul wills it. Because if you bend for approval, you will bend again and again until you are no longer a man, just a ghost in someone else's story. There is no balance when your love costs your integrity. There is no intimacy when you sell yourself to buy affection. You want to know the kind of man a woman cannot walk away from? He's not the richest, not the most beautiful, not even the most poetic. He is the man who can walk away and remain whole. Because the moment she senses that you cannot live without her, that your soul is shackled to her presence, that your flame dies if she leaves. In that moment, she no longer sees fire. She sees a flicker, a dim light, a candle fading into forgettable smoke. But the man who holds his center, who smiles through silence, who stays the course regardless of her storms, that man becomes gravity, a pull she cannot name, but always feels even when she walks away. Socrates didn't chase applause. He dismantled illusions. He didn't argue for victory. He questioned to reveal. And that is the essence of this truth. A man's soul must remain anchored, even when tempted by the approval of the one he most aches to impress. Because she will test you, not to ruin you, but to find out what you're really made of. When her words cut, do you bleed emotion? When her affection is withdrawn, do you crawl to reclaim it? When she threatens to walk, do you lose your path entirely? These are not conflicts. They are questions. And each time you answer with weakness, she loses trust. Not because you are bad, but because you reveal your throne is hollow, your foundation soft. No woman can trust a man who needs her more than he needs himself. You were not built for dependency. You were built for depth. Pain is not punishment, it's invitation. It's the first knock on the door to a higher version of you. A man who can feel without falling, who can love without losing, who can lead without controlling. That is not coldness. It is sovereignty. It is the masculine unchained from addiction. It is the soul of Socrates, calm, grounded, untouchable. And that is love that liberates, not love that enslaves. You were never made to bow at the altar of emotion. You were made to stand, to hold the gates of truth with a spine forged in silence. That is what Socrates lived, not with speeches, with sacrifice. When death came, he didn't negotiate. He chose silence over surrender, truth over survival, honor over comfort. And now the question passes to you. What is your truth? Because this is not about fearing her. It is not about reshaping her. It is about mastering yourself. She is not your battlefield. She is your mirror. She reveals the places in you still fractured, still unsure, still unclaimed. And most men fail, not because she is too complex, but because no one taught them how to stand in front of that reflection without breaking. The feminine does not come to complete your soul. She comes to test it. If you receive her, she becomes a forge. If you resist her, she becomes fire. Don't ask life to be softer. Return sharper. Don't ask her to stay if her soul has already gone. Don't plead for comfort from the very hand that left you aching. Mend yourself so thoroughly that even your wounds speak wisdom. In the end, Socrates gave no commandments, only questions, sharp enough to break delusion, quiet enough to wake the soul. And if you dare to walk that path, you will lose. You will lose comfort. You will lose the right to be blind. You will lose your place among the sleeping. But what you gain cannot be priced. You will gain clarity, that rare virtue, a light untouchable by confusion. You will gain peace, not stillness from the world, but stillness within it. You will gain power, not over them, but over you. And once you've mastered that, you've already claimed your throne. Let them call you cold. Let them whisper that you're too detached, too rational, too firm. That's the noise of a world that fears the man it cannot bend. Because that man cannot be bought. He cannot be pulled by desire, nor thrown by rejection. He stands not because he has nothing to lose, but because falling is no longer an option. And from that place he becomes a signal. Other men feel it. They remember. They remember the edge they once stood on. They remember the fire. That remembrance travels. You may never see where it reaches, but it reaches, because you are the man who speaks in silence, who carries a sorrow so ancient only the awakened recognize it. So I say, rise, not in fury, not in apology, not in fear. Don't attack it, but don't retreat from it either. Don't curse the test. Don't envy the power. Just meet it with something greater, your unshakable center. And when you do, the game dissolves. Illusions break. The soul rises. This isn't for all. It never was. It's for the few, the silent kings, the seekers, the men rebuilding themselves brick by brick in the dark. And if these words landed in you, if something inside you stirred, then pass it forward, not for attention, for alignment. Because out there, men are starving, starving for clarity, for mission, for meaning. If you were fed, feed. Let this not be a moment. Let it be your return, not to dominance, but to discernment. The world does not need louder men. It needs clearer ones. That means for you, walk forward unwavering, without bending for approval, without selling out for affection, without losing yourself for validation. Because while the world continues to celebrate weakness disguised as goodness, you will walk steadfastly, even if no one applauds, because Socrates already showed you. True power lies in not needing to be seen, in not needing to be followed, in not needing to be loved to be who you are. That is the beginning of freedom, and everything that is true begins there. If you pause for a moment and observe the men today's world is shaping, you'll see a silent epidemic. Men raised to please, but never to lead. Men who learn to read a woman's emotional language, but never learn to interpret the calling of their own soul. Men who know when she's upset, but don't know when they themselves are empty. That's the real breakdown. When the desire to be chosen eclipses the commitment to be true, they no longer love. They offer themselves. They no longer build. They kneel. And they call it love, when really it's hunger, a hunger for approval. The man who forgets his center will inevitably revolve around whatever validates him. And if it's a woman who validates him, then his entire identity becomes a cracked mirror, a fragmented reflection of what he thinks she wants to see. But what she truly needs isn't a reflection. It's a rock, a structure, a steady presence that doesn't sway with every passing emotion. Because while she may admire a man who is emotionally available, she only surrenders to the one who can hold her world without losing his own. That's not toughness. That's structure. And structure is what the male soul has lost. Broken men try to repair their manhood with romantic promises, flowers, poems, desperate gestures. But respect isn't bought with flowers. It's built with boundaries, with direction, with purpose. The paradox is this: the more you bend to keep her close, the more she feels she can let you go. Not because she's cruel, but because she's calibrated to respond to strength, not fragility. She doesn't need you to control her, but she cannot trust a man who falls apart at the slightest touch of disapproval. Male emotional stability is not coldness. It is leadership. And leadership isn't shouted, it's embodied. That's why so many men fall into relationships where they are used as support, but never as a pillar. They become necessary, but never admired. They are present, but invisible, because they gave themselves too quickly, because they didn't let their boundaries speak for them, because they believed true love was absolute availability. But she doesn't connect with your blind dedication. She connects with your clarity. And if you don't have that, she becomes a labyrinth that exhausts you, that tests you, that confuses you, until you end up empty, disconnected, not even knowing how you lost so much while trying not to lose her. What Socrates wanted was simple, yet profound. That a man not live as a shadow of himself, not be content with appearing wise, strong, or good, but be it. Because a woman can follow a man out of habit, she can stay out of convenience, but she only surrenders to him when she sees he doesn't need her surrender, that he already belongs to himself, that he isn't seeking refuge in her arms, but has built his own internal temple. That kind of man doesn't need to shout who he is. His presence says it all. So what's left for the awakened man? It's not about rejecting the feminine, nor locking himself away like a castle without doors. It's about understanding she's not here to complete you, but to polish you. That her presence is a test, not a prize. That her love shouldn't be a goal, but a consequence. Because when you stop pursuing her as salvation and begin to see yourself as a source, something inside aligns. Something in her feels it too. And from there, the true encounter begins. The man who belongs to himself no longer loses himself to anyone, no longer collapses in rejection, nor kneels before illusion, not because he doesn't love, but because he loves from totality, from the sober strength of one who has seen the truth and no longer needs to embellish it. That firmness is rare, that clarity is uncomfortable, but it is also liberating, because you no longer seek who will choose you. You become the one who chooses, and that changes everything. How you love, how you walk, how you simply are in the world. So don't seek to be desired, seek to be respected. Don't want to be followed, be worthy of being followed. The right woman will know. And if she doesn't, it doesn't matter, because you didn't come to be validated. You came to live in truth, to hold your crown without fear, to walk with fire in your soul, even if no one applauds. While the world surrenders to noise, you become an echo. And that echo is the legacy of men who no longer fall for love, but rise with it. If this message touched your heart, help me share it with more people. Let's break the goal of 10,000 likes on this video. I promise wherever I am, I will be infinitely grateful for that simple gesture, and I assure you it will come back to you as blessings. Many blessings in your life. Thinking about that, I'm sure you'll love the next video. So subscribe to the channel right now, activate the bell, and don't miss a thing. I'll wait for you there, full of discoveries like this. And I guarantee that in just 5 seconds, you could find revelations that completely transform your way of living. Before I close, I really want to hear your opinion in the comments. How did this make you feel? How have you been searching for your inner peace lately? Your voice is too valuable to me, and I'm excited to read your reflections. Let's continue together on this journey of self-discovery, because it's just beginning, getting started. See you very soon. See you then. Yeah.